Um, all right. Well, it's interesting, Ms. McCarthy, some of the bullet points
Let me get in a character for this one.
that you hashed out. It's, yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies, contradictions, and there's definitely some underlying motive that we can't, well, I think the public can discern on their own. And
I think the public has discerned that the most underlying motive that they see up at that dais is that you and probably Commissioner Petrie would like to fire City Manager Mike Womack. That's how it appears to most of us.
those were things that I had noted throughout the evening, along with many other things, and they become the theme of our meetings. The comment in public comments about how the meeting went smooth, it went short when I wasn't here, which it did. You did good. But the public behaved as well. And
Tell me that's not offensive. The public behaved. Because mind you, he's referring to the public at large when you say something like the public. And yeah, there, like I say, there are lots of public comments that I personally wouldn't make. Put a clip out earlier preceding this one where a city resident gets upset, makes a comment about the mayor that's a little personal. I wouldn't have made it, but at the same time, I'm sure I've done things that she wouldn't have done, and so on and so forth. But that is a condescending statement from the mayor. Like, just the word behave. It gives more of that Commissioner Petrie sunning Atwood and Brady disciplining her kids' five that I think we all bristle at.
we have over 1.5 hours of public comments tonight, not counting the 15-minute presentation. So pretty much 2 hours. We're at 9:30. We could have been done at 7:30. While it's important, and we do take very seriously all of the public comments that come in, and they're welcome. Some are more productive than others. Others just serve to tear people down. In fact, there was one comment that I believe the individual was making a chastising statement about all of us up here on the dais, about making statements about tearing people down while tearing people down. And I find that very ironic, that people can speak in contradictions while they're speaking. It's just so amazing to me.
Put a pin in that comment, right? Speaking in contradictions.
But we need to, and then there's a lot of talk about accountability. And the people who are saying it aren't taking accountability for themselves and the destructive nature of their comments.
What people are you referring to?
They're personal, they're attacks, they're mischaracterizing motives, and they're just all around hateful. And I just don't understand why. And then they talk about accountability, but don't take accountability. What accountability looks like is taking responsibility and owning the things when you make mistakes. And I have, and I get them thrown in my face a lot by the public, by members up here on this dais. One in particular was brought up a second time tonight when I said to Mr. Womack that he had a right to speak when spoken to. And I owned it. I owned it when it was brought
You owned it about 8 months after it happened.
up to me the last time. And I publicly apologized to Mr. Womack. It was not the right thing to say in the moment. He was speaking out of order, sure. And
Oh, you did. I tried to stop you. I tried to cut you off before you did that. He was speaking out of order, sure. Don't qualify your apologies. Accountability is not a qualified apology. It is not when you say, I shouldn't have done that, but I kind of should have done it because he was doing this. That's not an apology. It's not a valuable apology. It's not a meaningful apology. So when you're trying to cite yourself as an example of how you do take accountability in your very first attempt at demonstrating how you've done so, this is what upsets people. And yet, I don't like to see people be hateful, believe it or not. I don't like to see that. But this is why people are frustrated, because in somehow you think, and many of the people around you reinforce the belief that you are always doing the right thing. And like, none of us always do the right thing. But when you take accountability for doing the wrong thing, you can't qualify it. You cannot say, I shouldn't have done it, but I did it because, and expect people to embrace that as something that is a genuine, meaningful acknowledgement of wrongdoing.
And simultaneously with two other individuals that were speaking out of order, and it got a little bit frazzling for me. And
that
what
makes
I should have
sense.
said was, you may speak when recognized by the chair, because he was out of order.
You see what I'm saying? If he had just said what I should have said, is you may speak when recognized by the chair. Okay, maybe. And I like that he's saying he was frazzled. It makes sense. He was a brand new mayor, and frankly, I don't think that job's gotten a whole lot easier for him since he's taken over. But again, doubling down on the idea that he was speaking out of order. You don't need to do that. That's not what accountability looks like. Either take true accountability in which you do not qualify your apologies and you do not try to spin your mistakes, or just defend what you did. Say, yeah, I said it. Here's why. He needed to hear it. One or the other, man.
My choice of words were hasty and firm, but I don't think that they were wrong either.
So what are we doing, my guy? They're hasty and firm, but I don't think they were wrong. Like, then why are you apologizing? If they weren't wrong, what are you apologizing for? Right? So please leave a comment. Help me out here, because I think I think on both sides, a lot of us feel gaslit. This makes me feel gaslit. You kind of trash the public. You talk about public whining. You talk about how hateful the public is and how, people aren't taking accountability. You don't get specific about that. Presumably Atwood, Brady, me, Karen Bershake, I don't know. Who knows? But if that's true, you're right there with us. You are right there with us, Mr. Mayor. You're no better. I'm not going to say you're any worse, right? We are all in this mess together at this point, man.
But I own it, and I apologize to him. That's accountability. No one has apologized for their hate, their unproductive criticism, their tearing down while chastising tearing down. But I don't hold it against you. Since the beginning of my term, I have come under attack with no provocation, starting with a simple seating change that was within my authority as presiding officer, to the chagrin of Mr. Brady's opinion.
Again, it's kind of like, I still think it's very debatable whether you had the authority, Mr. Mayor, to make a seating chart. But let's just operate under the assumption that you did. You still, instead of giving the commission an opportunity to have a voice in that and to share their opinion with you and why they would prefer not to do that, maybe, you just dictated to them. Again, kind of like their kids, right? Kind of like it was the same thing with Bodman, where here's an example. Well, we're going to use Bodman as an attorney because he's done work for the city before. Well, because he's done work for the city before, I know for sure Commissioner Atwood was there when it happened. Why didn't you ask Commissioner Atwood, hey, you were around when Bodman did work for the city in the past. Would you suggest that we use him again, or perhaps was the experience not a good one? Should we go in a different direction? Right? Like, ah.
Along with other things he thinks I don't have.
Mr. Mayor, I would call
the
you to the
authority
same
to
standard
do.
that you called me to.
Agreed.
I give him credit there. Agreed.
And that attack without provocation continues, and it's continued without anyone being held accountable. Eventually,
What does that mean? You know what I think that means? I think that means people like me he's going to sue someday. That's what I think that means. And mind you, sue means I've been served before, right? We'll be in court, whatever. That's what I think. I think that's what he's indicating there, because the lawyer or the mayor is quick to get an attorney to fight a battle. And maybe I'll be the only one named. Maybe not. I think that's coming. And we'll see how that plays out. But if I'm even wrong about that, then what accountability is he looking for? What is he talking about? Who is he talking about? What are you saying in these closing comments? Right? Let's just strip away all the code switching and just say it, man. Just say it. Put it on your website. Add to your FOIA documents a letter to the community. Spell it out.
I began using the gavel. You'll notice that I haven't been so much lately because even that has come under attack.
And you know what? I give you credit for that, because that is the type of thing where, you got to keep order, sure. But I don't think there was a meeting in Lapeer, and there are many, many meetings in our little town, that anybody needed a gavel, right? Why do you? Because Brady and Atwood are just such hostile, evil, if you listen to Geraldine Carson, city commissioners, that their whole agenda is to they have something to gain here, right? Whatever that is. I think Commissioner McCarthy may have been talking about them earlier in this night. Who has something to gain from all this disruption? Well, what do they have to gain? I don't understand it. I'm starting to feel dumber all the time.
I was using the gavel and calling firmly for order, which was well within my right and authority as the presiding officer, because,
It is.
as Ms. McCarthy had pointed out, there is a manufactured chaos that's happening, and there's a disrespect for hierarchy and order.
That didn't exist until you showed up. And I don't think, I remember Brady saying, I think Cloutier was his guy, but he tried to stay out of it. I don't think he put Cloutier's yard sign up. Atwood didn't run for mayor. He could have. He chose not to. If he had, he probably would have won, which indicates to me, I don't think he really necessarily, clearly he didn't care about being mayor. So what is it all of a sudden that these guys now just have this agenda that cropped up since you took over? Maybe they just disagree with you, and you guys have been steamrolling them for 8 or 9 months. The 4 of you steamroll them. And Womack, you steamroll him. Although I think that that is going to play out in a way that will be quite favorable to Mike Womack, but we'll see.
Now, you may not care for my personality or my approach, but restoring order and respect to this table is exactly what I said I was going to do when I ran.
What order and respect needed to be restored? See, these are the things that trip me out. Mayor Marquardt ran unopposed 4 years prior to when Mayor Hing ran against Mindy Schwab and Brian Cloutier. She ran unopposed. And I believe she was a progressive mayor who, the majority of that last term of hers there, had a pretty conservative commission that included Atwood and Brady. And there weren't all kinds of personality conflicts. The public wasn't showing up upset. Maybe I'm to blame for some of that. I don't know. But what order had to be restored that was lacking before you showed up?
I said that I was going to run on accountability and transparency, and those are the very things that I bring.
No, you don't. No, you don't, because you protect privilege, right? And you again and again and again talk about Atwood and Brady and how all you have to do is call me like the other commissioners have in order to understand this Bodman situation. And they are like, no, we want to see it documentation, right? Because it's very easy to have a conversation with somebody and characterize it differently after the fact, right? If there's a lack of trust between people and you can't have like a mediator, at least when you have something in black and white, you have it in black and white. It is what it is. You can see the itemized bill from Bodman. You can see exactly what the direction was. You're not telling me in your own words after the fact what's going on. I am getting to see the actual correspondence, the actual itemized bills, and so is the community. Understandably, there may need to be needs for redaction, but for all this protecting privilege and whatnot, the whole world knows Mike Womack's on a paid suspension based on a sexual harassment investigation. So great job with that. And I'm not even zeroing in solely on the mayor with that, but you kind of steered it down the course that it went. So wherever it went off the rails, you put it in motion.
While still being responsible with confidentiality and the laws that we are bound by. And those are the very things I'm attacked for and criticized for. Most of the criticism aimed at me comes down to personal attacks with no bearing on any political action.
You know what? I've done a little research, and I need to bring it up to speed. About a month ago, I looked into what has gotten done by this city commission, which includes everybody up there on that screen. Mike Womack should be there for the purposes of this comment. I believe since Mayor Hing took office, as of about 2 meetings ago, they had met for something like 55 hours. And you know what they've gotten done? They've gotten like a pickleball court, a road maybe that was set in motion long before. Like, I don't know that they've really gotten a whole lot done. I don't think that this has been the most transparent city commission we've ever seen. In fact, it definitely has not been. What are you talking about? What? Stop patting yourself on the back for a job well done. This city is burning around you. And again, I'll take some blame for it too. Let's all take some blame for it and say, this isn't going well for anybody, and none of us are doing a good job. We all could be better. No, you take accountability, right? Yeah, sometimes you say some things you shouldn't say, but of course you only do that because somebody else said some things they shouldn't say first, right?
Or they misrepresent facts. I've endured it without stooping to the same.
That I'll give him credit for. That I will give him credit for. Mayor Hing has not, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty confident about this, he's carried this burden pretty quietly and with some dignity. You know, I don't necessarily respect the job he's done as mayor, the actions he's taken at that dais. He is very intelligent. He is very prepared. I think he works very hard. He has some great characteristics and attributes. And again, he's functioned with dignity away from there, at least publicly. Give him credit for that.
Will not stoop to it tonight. What troubles some people is not my personality, really. It is the accountability that I call for and the transparency I've brought to the circumstances that
Bullshit. It is not those things that you just cited. It's not. It is your personality. It is, and that sucks to say, but it is in large part because, again, here you are qualifying everything. Here you are explaining what a great job you're doing and how, like, who in Lapeer, who in the city of Lapeer, take me out, take Brady out, take Atwood out, take Womack out, right? People that maybe have some kind of stakes in this game, so to speak. What average person on Pine Street is like, man, there is just too much accountability at City Hall since the mayor took over. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm going to speak up. I don't like the order that he has restored. I don't like it. It upsets me. It upsets me. All the accountability and order and transparency that the mayor has brought, I find it unnerving. It's not what I want from my local government. I don't want those things. I don't want good, honest, transparent, highly functioning local government in my community. That is not what I want.
disregard our rules, and we're disregarding them before I got here. They disregard our rules, our charter, and our code, and the law. And some of the things that have been uncovered also flirt with personal gain instead of public good.
I wonder if he's talking about the Brady grant or the Brady grant there. You know, a few months ago, he implied he was looking something up, investigating something, and it wasn't Womack. And it did seem like it was Brady. And it did, just based on the energy of that moment. And now we've seen this whole grant thing come out. Man, I've looked at that. You never know what you don't know. But Brady inquired about a grant. Brady is a teacher. Brady is a Lapeer guy. All those people, not all those people, the elected people, you know, Kelly Hanna, Alan Francis, Mike Womack, I'm sure they bank. The elected commissioners and mayor, this is like a volunteer position. So Brady, on a teacher's salary, serving city government, sees an opportunity for a grant for some home improvement, inquires about it, and he's getting raked over the coals about it. All he did was inquire. I don't know what else you would want the guy to do. He asked the city manager, like, hey, what do you think about this? And Womack shut it down, and Brady accepted that. And now he's got to sit there like a year and a half later as if he's a criminal and be tried for it. It's just, it feels like political grandstanding. It really does. Like, why are we still on this? And John DeAngelis brings this up again. And you know what? I'm looking forward to talking to John. I think John and I might talk. John and I are always super cordial when we bump into each other in public. This is just politics, whatever. But I just don't see it. I don't see, again, it feels like obfuscation. It feels like some kind of justification. It feels ad hominem. It just, I have to admit, I think Brady does a good job. You know, I'm glad he's there on the front lines. That is not easy. He keeps fighting the good fight in my eyes.
For some time, I've been aware of certain violations and conduct that does not belong in the city's government. And those things will become more and more increasingly into the light. I'm asking this whole commission to turn its attention to the well-being of our residents and especially to the safety and fair treatment of our staff. That is exactly what the Bodman engagement is about.
The Bodman engagement, from what I've seen, and by the way, hot take, I'm going to predict right now, it's going to come in over budget. They're supposed to address it at the August 17th meeting. The Bodman 1 investigation was earmarked for $10,000. I'm going to predict it exceeds that greatly. Bodman 2, I don't think they even put a cap on. So this total bill, right, whatever it turns out to be, $10, $20, $30, $40,000, whatever it ends up being, what are we going to get out of it? I feel like in order to justify it, they're gonna have to get a pound of flesh out of Womack, whether it's warranted or not. I've seen a little bit. I've heard a little bit. I'm sorry, Commissioner McCarthy. I don't need to FOIA everything. I know that is protected information. That is different, or privileged information. So no, I don't know details about that. But I've been paying attention for a while. I have seen certain things. I just don't. I guess we'll find out. But a lot of money has been spent. And yes, absolutely, sexual harassment should not be tolerated. Our city should not tolerate that. But we'll see. We'll see when it all comes out in a week, you know. I don't know what to hope. I certainly hope nothing bad happened, but I also hope that, like, we haven't gone through all of this for essentially nothing either. It's a weird place to be. Tell me what you think about that. Like, how do you feel? What are you hoping to see? Are you hoping to see that there was some fire where the smoke was, and it's proven that the city manager did something inappropriate and is held accountable? Or are you hoping to see that he didn't do anything wrong, or he didn't do anything significantly wrong that can't be corrected? And then now that means our mayor and some of the commissioners threw a bag at attorneys for something minor. Like, I don't think that either situation's good.
And it's not vague as it's been painted. It has been detailed. The motions were detailed. The motions were changed before they got to the agenda, and then I stated them clearly during the meetings. They weren't vague. We know exactly what we're paying for. That's rhetoric. That's framing.
Remember that. Remember that, because I believe he says that he needs Bodman to explain the bill. So if he needs that, then maybe he doesn't have as good of a grasp on what they're paying for as he's implying right here. Like, in a general sense, we know what's being investigated, but for all the hours and thousands of dollars, do you really know the work being done? It's just an interesting question.
And for what purpose? For more chaos. The staff has endured this for far too long. Now, I don't hold any will, like I said, to anybody over these things. Much of what is said about me has already been answered time and time again in these meetings by my own words or by others, whether it's from the public or whether it's from the dais. But I ask that you just, as Ms. McCarthy had asked, use critical thinking. You know, there's
that in the critical thinking comment. I don't love that either, because it's implying that we aren't thinking critically, that we are missing that there is manufactured chaos by Brady and Atwood that they benefit from. Which I don't know how. And I'm sure she would make her argument as to how, and she's entitled to that belief. But those comments like use critical thinking or the public is whining. I have a condo in Florida I'd like to spend more time at. Just off the top of my head, those are pretty tone deaf from our local government. There are people up there that tend to make those, and I don't get it.
clips that are taken out of context. That's not truth. And I trust the residents to weigh the full record.
Me too.
I would only ask this. Engage with me. Ask questions. Ask for clarity. And do not jump to conclusions. I have extended that offer and that patience to everyone at this table. I did it again tonight. I've extended that offer to the public, including those who refuse it and then fault me for what they did not take the time to learn. I've not yet been met in the same way.
That is not true. That is not true. And while he certainly would disagree. I think you and I know that's not true.
Even so, we can begin to heal.
I hope so.
We can reconcile.
I hope so.
We need to heal and reconcile this city.
I believe so too.
I ask that you would all be safe. God bless and good night. Meeting adjourned.
All right, so those were the closing comments of the mayor's August 3rd. A lot there. Love to hear what you think. Talk to you soon.